Before we get to the big show, I need to read the winners for the Service Advisor and Manager Comp from last month. Now, if you're new to our program or the big show, we have software that our coaching clients are benchmarked, their advisors are benchmarked in 5 or 6 different categories, and they win the comp. We call them top dogs, winners. And then the managers are graded on their average advisor's performance in the composite. So then they're top dogs. So in the competition, you kind of have the top dogs, the working dogs, which are in the middle, and then the Chihuahuas, which are the bottom 20%. And you do not want to be a Chihuahua because we're not going to read off Chihuahuas. We're only going to read off the winners and the top dogs. So it's also broken up into different categories, so it's fair because, an advisor in a Mercedes store isn't going to compete against an advisor in a Ford store. So the first group that we have is the American group. So that would be like Ford, Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge. And the winner is 8 Mile, top manager, 8 Mile, and the top advisor, Uncle Rich. Good job, you guys. For the Japanese competition, top manager is Chief Grady. And top advisor is Foster. Great job, Grady and Foster. For the Highline competition, top manager again, Monster. Monster is hard to beat. And then top advisor is Hustlebucks. Hustlebucks. Yep, you heard it right, Hustlebucks. Then in the Canadian comp, top manager is Boss Lady. Great job, Boss Lady. And top advisor is Roadrunner. And then in Asian Zing, top manager is Big Tuna, and top advisor is P. And then not P-E-E, just P. That's their alias and nickname in the competition. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you so much for your hard work. And to all the working dogs and Chihuahuas, come on, this month, you got to do it. Dethrone them. You can win. Now to the big show. Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution. How you doing, Mario?
I'm good, but your pen is spinning.
We have an exciting show for you today. Forget about the pen. That's not important. We're going to teach you a couple things today. How to be self-made.
Okay.
I'm excited about this one. I'm excited to talk about this one. How to be self-made. You're self-made.
Yeah.
I'm self-made. You can be self-made. We're also going to talk about how to get hired at a dealership. And we have questions. We have some good questions from the audience. So I'm excited about that.
Well, before we get started, I have something to say here. I got a meme I just read.
What?
I got a meme and I want to share.
So stop the presses.
Stop the press. Chris, there was a customer that went into the service drive and he was complaining, or she was complaining about a loud, horrible noise coming from her car. What do you think the symptom was?
This is a joke, right?
Well, I don't know. They never really found out the symptom.
Serious?
But the technician did say, did you try taking out the Mariah Carey Christmas CD out of the car? I'm sorry. I get a kick out of these memes and whatnot.
Man, how crazy is Mariah
But I got one
Carey?
for you, for real. For real. What is the most expensive vehicle to operate?
The Bugatti.
No.
Yeah. So we've had a service department with Bugatti.
Yeah?
The wheels and tires only last like 5,000 miles, and you have to buy them from Italy in a set, and they're like 50 grand for the wheels
Just
and the
the wheels
tires.
and tires.
And you can't buy the tires separately. You buy the wheels and the tires.
Oh.
And yeah, it's crazy. So think about that. Every 5,000 miles, you got to spend 50 grand.
Are they in
now, of course, you
business
spend
with
2 point, right? You spend 2.8 million or 3 million on a car.
That's pretty
you'll
good.
Spend the 50,000.
But I'm going to disagree. The most expensive car to operate It's a Costco shopping cart. Would you not agree? Would you not agree, right? A Costco shopping cart.
That's funny.
I'm sure everybody out there can agree with that.
Cheers to you. So if you're listening and not watching this, Mario and I are enjoying a nice aged tequila given to us by George Clooney.
Beautiful. Thank you, George
Roundabout. Fun. What do you want to start with? What do you think, Mario? You want to go to the questions?
Yeah, let's start with the questions. That's always good.
Okay. This question is from Michael Cox. I've never in my 21 years in the auto industry, service advisor / service manager, seen a dealership like this. I've taken some of your courses and listened to every Service Drive Revolution podcast multiple times. I'm curious about your opinion on this situation. I've never been an advisor at a shop that gets in trouble for upselling. It's messed up and I don't know how to handle it. Every day, all work is getting done. Booking 90 hours per day customer work with 40 hours of upsell room. Used vehicles and PDIs making up the rest of the hours the techs are pumping out. Labor rate is 140 for most things. Advisors are allowed to upsell alignments, battery services, wipers, brake fluid, power steering fluid, safety-related repairs. Not allowed to upsell bigger services. Michael Cox. I don't know, Michael.
I'm a little confused. I don't know where the problem is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what bigger services means.
Maybe talking about repairs of some sort?
Maybe you got to clarify for us, Michael, because I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, I feel he's in a good scenario there.
Because he says he's not allowed to upsell, but then he's allowed to upsell safety items, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You got to help us, Michael. We need more information. Okay, here comes one from Chris Chisholm. Chisholm? Off of LinkedIn. Question for all the automotive businesses. And this is one of those questions, bro. Like if you were gonna be stranded on a desert island and you could only take one CD, or like F, Marry, Kill.
Right.
You're like, when people do F, Marry, Kill, and you're like, but that's not a real, like, I refuse to play that game. It's not a real thing.
Right.
And I refuse to pick like the best quarterback of all time or whatever. It's like
Joe Montana. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to throw it in there.
Yeah, Tom Brady never happened. But I mean, it's all subjective. It's all subjective.
Yeah.
Okay, so
let's
back
ask the question. Let's see
to
what the question
Chris Holm.
All right.
Chris Holm. So his first name's Chris. His second name is Chris Holm.
Croissant. Like croissant?
Nothing.
Croissant.
Man. Okay, start again. Question for the automotive business. Weird too to say automotive business. It's the automotive industry. If you had to choose, would you pick washing customers' cars, picking them up, or dropping off service? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Now, is that
5 question marks.
3 options?
F, Marry, Kill, Mario.
I get it.
F, Marry, Kill.
I'm trying to give him something to go back with, but
Here's the thing, Chris Holm. It's not reality, bro. You can do it all and more. Listen to the podcast with Brian Benstock. Our industry's changing. What do customers want? Why can't we do it all? You know customers will pay more for better service, right? I mean, if you're just, if it's just about price, it's a chase to the bottom, but we can charge a fair amount and offer customers what they want. So it's funny too, like, this is how ass backwards our industry is. Chris Holm. Ask the customers this, not us. What do the customers want? Don't ask a couple of tequila drinking fools here.
cheers.
We want to give the customers what they want. We don't want to be right.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be right. I don't want to guess wrong.
I mean, ultimately,
I want customers happy.
we've given them a little something. They want to have a connection and be dealt by a professional at the end of the day.
Yeah, but a lot of people want their car picked up. They want it washed. It's not that hard to facilitate all that.
Right.
This question comes from Lindsay. I hope this question's better.
I'm hoping too. I was ready to move on to the next one.
We should read these beforehand. Lindsay Cotu. Our dealership has hired a new fixed ops manager. Where do you think this is going? Do you think it's going?
That can go
I
anywhere.
love him. Do you think it's going? We hired a new fixed ops manager, and he's the greatest thing that ever happened, or he's ruining the place. He moved my desk. Which way do you think
From
it's going?
experience, I'm going to say who moved the cheese.
Okay. He wants to make it so that every car that is booked in for the day comes into the shop the second the appointment is booked for. So everyone is a waiter. So all 40 to 55 appointments. Am I crazy to be worried about this? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. People are a little question mark crazy. The one question mark would have been okay.
That would have been more than enough.
Our appointments are booked at 15-minute intervals starting at 8 a.m. Wow, they open late.
Yeah.
Get to sleep in
That's
at
the
this
first thing I was
dealership.
thinking about too. Wow. They get an
I
extra,
just, so you do the shift meeting at 7:45? Think about all that extra
if they're
beauty
doing
sleep you
one
would
at
get.
all.
I just can't wrap my head around how this will work. I'm stressed just thinking about it. Have you seen this before? What happens with diag? Question mark, question mark. Upsells? Question mark, question mark. Intervals? Question mark, 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 question mark. Help! Exclamation point, explanation point. We have 8 bays, 5 techs, 2 apprentices, and no quick lube, which is irrelevant to the whole thing. Okay, Lindsay, here's the thing. I think you should try it. He might be right. We have this little thing that we do called instant inspection, and every car that comes in, we immediately have a tech greet them and put the car in the air, and we inspect everything right then. And what happens is, if the customer looks at the car with the tech, our closing ratios go up, and at the moment of write-up, you know pretty much 90% of the time what the car needs. Parts can pull the parts, you can put them in the car, they can go to a tech, and he can just finish it. And that's it. There's no calling a customer, going to the waiting room, selling, chasing. When will it be done? It won't be done. Do we have the parts? You know everything at the time of write-up. It's super efficient, and it works really well. So I don't know. I think you should give him a try.
Yeah.
And let us know. If it doesn't work, then, you know, send us a review with lots of explanation points and lots of question marks.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, one of the ways that I've coached on the field on how to eliminate how many customers are waiting, what do you think that is? I simply ask them 2 questions. Do you have your own ride home, or do you need a shuttle? I never ask, are you waiting? And that's one of the things as advisors we go to. Are you going to be waiting? And guess what the customer's thinking? Well, I wasn't, but now that you asked, maybe my car will go through faster. So it's almost reframing the customer as, do you have your own shuttle, or do you need a pickup, right? Somewhere along those lines. But yeah,
Here's
absolutely.
a gift for you.
I don't want too many
don't ever
question
say I
marks
didn't
here.
give you anything. Okay, this one, I think this question, which I actually did read ahead of time, and it's pretty articulate, should go into how to get hired at a dealership. We should just segue right into this. So this came off of Reddit. So we pulled this off of Reddit, so it wasn't actually submitted to us, but the user is MTH281 asked, I've talked to 2 dealerships who seem interested in hiring me. I've never worked at a dealership, let alone as an advisor, so I'm a little cautious about taking the job. I've worked at a little engine shop for the last 8 years. I'm the lead tech and basically the guy under the owner. I work on anything from Jaws of Life to hot air balloons. And fans with lots of mowers in between. However, I don't strictly just work on stuff. I sell equipment, I work up estimates, I call with estimates, I recommend work. I listen to how the customer reacts so I know how to word something and give them options I think they would be okay with. I order my own parts. I'm the guy that can tear apart a blown engine and tell you exactly what failed, whether it was mechanical or a failure of maintaining the engine properly. I'm also the guy that recommends things to people to extend the life of their equipment, and also small stuff like why an oil change during the break-in period is so important. So what should I expect? Is the pay worth it? How could I excel? The hours don't seem great, but my current hours are great. Both dealerships told me average income is 40 to 100,000. Look at that range. 40 to 100,000. I currently make 32,000 with no benefit. So, Myth 281. Let us tell you a couple things about this and how you would get hired at a dealership. So first of all, the range of 40,000 to 100,000, the most we've seen an advisor make is what, 420,000 in a year?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is it 420 or 430? It's something in that neighborhood.
Mine was a little lower, but yeah, it's around that number for sure.
So I know they're giving you this range, but the truth of the matter is what got Mario and I hooked on this industry, and we both started out basically as porters and worked our way up, is we became service advisors, and we couldn't believe that the harder we worked and the more we made friends with the customers and the more we perfected our craft, the more we made. Like, I remember being 20 years old telling my mom, I make more than some lawyers. And there's a good and bad to that. One is you're making more income than you would at a vocational school or something,
right.
like, going to college, that sort of thing. Because it didn't take me long. I was making 120,000, and I'm in my, I'm just a kid.
Early 20s, I get it.
It's crazy. And I'm making 120 grand a year. That's good. The bad part of that is you're stuck in the industry. Like, where else can you go?
You can't think
and
of
do
anything
that?
else,
Yeah.
right? But just doing that and making that amount of money.
And so a lot of people ask about being an advisor and how do you get hired at a dealership. And I always kind of start with, listen, the one thing that you have to understand is if you go into this and you're good, you're going to be stuck. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
People don't understand on the outside of the industry that waiters and people in other industries work twice as hard and make a quarter of what you can make as a service advisor. It's crazy. Like, people in the food industry that they'll work 7 days a week, and they're making $16 an hour. And as an advisor, if you connect with customers and you're good and you really try to perfect your craft, you approach it like a pro,
right.
You can make a great living, And so, kind of coming into a dealership and the things that you want to think about to get hired in a dealership, the first thing is understanding how life-changing it is if you get hired in the right place.
Right.
And that's a part of it too, because some places you don't want to get hired. But what would you say, Mario, somebody coming in from the outside as an advisor, what are service managers looking for?
I mean, if the two most things I think service managers are looking for are you customer friendly? Like, do you have some kind of personality? Are you charismatic? Can people like you, right? Because they understand that when people like you, trust you, and know you, they're more willing to buy you and give you a great survey. But I think number two is you got to have some type of understanding of what you're going to be doing, in addition to loving the brand. I think it's important, right? There's so many different brands you can go into, but I think in picking a brand that you either have some passion for or have an understanding for, it's going to help you kind of get a little more knowledge, right? Would you not agree with those?
Oddly, I do agree with you, but then I just want to follow that up by saying, and then as soon as you start riding that brand, forget about the brand, because the car is a commodity. So right. What Mario's saying really is true, and it works. Like, if you love a certain car and you go write service for that, it's going to be an easier path for you,
right?
Because you're passionate about it. But don't mistake the fact that customers coming in are people, and the car is an excuse. The car is a commodity. Anybody can service a Toyota or a Mazda or a BMW. So even if you're a huge BMW fan, that helps for sure.
Right.
But don't forget that people are the most important part of the whole equation.
Right, absolutely. Two of my first jobs, Chris, I'm sure we had a side conversation about this, but my first job was selling chocolates door to door. Some people might call it, a side gig. Some people might call it a job. I was getting paid. I looked at it as a job. But it's one thing that I realized right there is you have to be charismatic for people to want to buy off of you.
Because you're walking up to a door?
You are literally selling yourself with a box of chocolates, and you're ringing the doorbell, and you're saying, hey, my name is Mario and I'm with this company called Junior Careers, and you have this whole spiel and presentation, and ultimately they're either going to decide to buy a overpriced chocolate or peanut brittle or not, right? And a lot of it was because I'm out there and I'm looking for something to relate to them and connect with them with before I even start selling. Like, oh, those are really beautiful cars you have out there. Instantly they felt like, oh wow, he likes the car that I drive, right? It's a connection with them. But number two, and I know I've told you this before, is when I worked for Penske at Longo Toyota as a porter, and it still just resonates with me to this day, was it would say at the bottom of my paycheck as a porter, this paycheck was brought to you by our customers. That right there, I think those two lessons, understanding how our charismatic sells our product and understanding that at the end of the day, we have to take care of our customers, I think changed the way I look at the business. And I know it's customer oriented, customer first, customer oriented. And so we have to go out and be able to sell ourselves. And I think that's what a service manager is looking for. Are you charismatic? Are you not afraid to communicate? And can I get people to like you, trust you, and know you, right?
Yeah, that's good. So the other thing with that we might suggest is, why don't you go in for service a couple times and get oil changes to see what the process is like?
That's good.
Borrow a car, whatever you need to do. But if you're interviewing somewhere, go in and see what the process is like, and then kind of understand, because I did this when I was a porter, is I would bring up the cars and the customers were unhappy, and I thought, oh, I could do so much better than these clowns, until I became one of them, and I realized that it was the dealership that was broken. It wasn't the advisors. Like, you couldn't get work done in dispatch. The shop was a mess. Like, and so, don't prejudge too hard, because there's other elements, but try to understand what's going on there. And so I think, like, your personality is the first thing in the door, and then your enthusiasm for the brand and for cars is a big deal. And then any accomplishments that you've had previously. Like, every time I've interviewed an advisor that brought, like, their trophies from being the top salesperson at AAA, or winning some athletic thing in college, or a junior Olympic gold medal or whatever, those individuals have always been high performing advisors. And so, in the industry, that you're paid on commission and you earn your own way, anything that you've done previously in life, whether it was in high school or after high school, where you were number one at something, where you accomplished something, is something I would bring up in the interview and talk about and put in your resume. Because it definitely shows competitiveness and performance, and that you stick to something. So, I've interviewed advisors before that were black belts. Anything that shows that you have discipline and that you stick to something is a huge asset in the car industry, because we're looking for performers, and you don't necessarily have to have written service before at all, but if you have personality and you're a performer, those two things are harder to teach than anything else.
It's you have it or you don't, right?
Yeah. The other thing I would say when you interview is don't be afraid to ask questions. I think when you pretend like you know it all, it can create this awkward thing in the interview, but it really does have the reverse effect and work to your advantage if you ask really good questions about the job to understand it, because whoever's interviewing you kind of starts to sell you on it, even though they don't know they're doing it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions with enthusiasm and, excitement for the industry and the job, but don't be afraid. Don't pretend like you know it all. Be honest and understand that there's a learning curve.
Right.
And also, I would say, be willing to come in as a porter or in the business development center answering phones and making appointments, because you'll learn a lot about the industry there. Like, I don't know that I would have been a good advisor if I didn't start off as a porter. And then when I was a porter, I would offer to write the internal repair orders for the advisors and close them out. So I learned how to open and close a repair order long before I ever got a chance to be an advisor.
Right.
Because the computer system and most of the industry has proprietary systems that you will never know until you work there. How to write up a customer and create a repair order, how to check on things and history and all that.
Oh yeah.
And they're a little cumbersome. Once you know them, but it takes it takes repetition.
I remember a similar situation where I was an express rider and I was just yearning for the time I was going to become a full-blown rider. And I would always remember people complaining about extended warranty. And I'd be like, why are they all mad that they're on extended warranty call? And this one guy that moved from parts over to service, his name was Danny Bacetta. And I ended up asking him one day, because he was always open to teach me as he's learning. And I asked him, what is it about extended warranty that everybody hates? And he goes, it's not that they hate it, it's just they make you go through loops and hoops, and they try to cut your hours, and you got to get strategic of how to get your text diag time and additional hours. And I said, hey, why don't we do this? When you're on one of those calls, I'll be on the call for you. You can go write up other cars, but you got to teach me what it is that I have to learn in order to get my technicians the additional time that you guys are talking about. He said, deal. And so, I come from a dealership. We had 25 advisors, and then, most of them are like, hey, he's taking advantage of you. You shouldn't let him do that. In the meantime, I knew exactly what I was doing. He's taking advantage of me, but I'm taking advantage of the opportunity and learning that. So when I became a full-blown rider, I knew all the little ins and outs of getting that extra hour and getting a little time for the technicians, exactly. Right? But yeah, that's interesting.
And then the last thing that I would say is that if you do interview for a job as an advisor or just anything in the service department, I would right away, as soon as you leave there, write a handwritten note card and mail it to the post office where that dealership is so they get it the next day.
Yeah.
And maybe send a couple thank you notes like that, because it shows that you can follow up and that you're attentive. And that's what we're looking for advisors is that little extra that nobody else does. And not too many people write handwritten letters anymore. So an email is okay, but a handwritten letter is a nice little touch. And even more, if you notice something about the manager that was interviewing you or something, something that complements that. Like, say, for example, Captain, who's one of our elite managers in San Diego in our elite group, is super into Star Trek. And you couldn't go in his office and not notice it. So if you sent him, like, even if you just put a Star Trek, logo on the card or whatever, you don't need to spend any money on it, but just showing that you understand how to connect with customers quickly. Because like Mario was saying, selling door-to-door, it's the same thing in the service drive. Is you got seconds to decide how you're going to connect with the customer. And so if they have a vanity plate or they have chrome wheels or a cool pair of shoes on or something, you're going to notice that and you're going to go to that first. You're going to say like, oh, wow, those shoes are cool. Where did you get them? Because people love to talk about themselves and they love that attention. So, if anybody is putting chrome wheels on their car, modifying their car, it's a cry for help in the way that they want attention for that. So if you can notice that about the manager that interviewed you and notice something in their office, like they're hunters or fishing or sports or whatever it is, those little things are a nice touch and will put you above everybody else because of that attention to detail, because that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, but I think it's really important to remind everybody it's attention to detail. It takes an art to pay attention to everything else besides yourself. We're so narcissist, so we're so worried about how we're going to sound and so on. Narcissistic.
Speak for yourself, son.
Which a lot of times we're so focused on ourselves that we don't pay attention to what's around us, right? What do you think? I think we should bring up the topic, which goes without saying, but I think one big thing that's going to help you get hired is how you're dressed. How you dress up to the interview.
I say you go into the interview dressed like Borat with that onesie. What is that thing called?
Chris, you're trying to get them. We're trying to help them
what
to.
Do you call it?
A one-piece slingy.
No, but it's
something.
like a. What do they call that? Like a banana hammock.
A banana hammock or something. We want to help them get a job, Chris, not get kicked out of there.
Guaranteed, they're going to talk about you for weeks. They could have interviewed 100 people. They're going to talk about you and then send the thank you card. That would confuse everybody, right?
I want to see that, guys. Write back to us. Let's see
Borat? To be the best. Nobody does that.
That is definitely.
No, what do you think they should wear? A tie?
Just a shirt and tie, some slacks. I mean, you want to pay attention to detail on how you look. They're going to be looking at that, right? One of the things we train people is before you even talk, they're sizing you up. They're looking at who you are before you even say hello, right? And we have seconds, a matter of seconds. I think it's like 9, and then it goes down to about 6 or 7 if it's a female. They think about you right away, how you look, how you're walking. And so I think it's important that you give them that right impression in order for them to at least want to hear what you have to say, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. So dress up.
Dress up.
Jacket?
No, I think I like the banana hammock after all.
Can you imagine? That'd be so fun. If anybody does that, please videotape it and send it to us. I would love that. Yeah. Nothing more rewarding than working in our industry. Like,
Definitely.
it's crazy. So if you're lucky enough to get hired, approach it like a pro and remember that your role as an advisor is to collect customers. That's your job. Selling is the easiest part. It's the collecting. And I go back to, like, we're kind of self-made, right? Like, we started out. So I was thinking about this the other day about being self-made, right? And self-made kind of has this connotation like you're a self-made successful person. So they'll say the term like, he's a self-made millionaire, right?
All right.
And I was thinking like, you're homeless in downtown LA, you're self-made. Everybody walking around is self-made.
Right.
Right?
It's what you make of yourself.
Yeah, like who else are you gonna blame?
Right.
Like at some point you gotta stop blaming everybody else and you gotta realize you are self-made. Whether you're successful or you're an utter disappointment to your parents.
You made
You're
yourself.
self-made, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because I've always like taken self-made as a positive thing, and then really it goes both ways. Everybody's self-made.
I don't think I've ever thought about it till you just brought that up right now, and I can see it 100%.
Yeah, it's
I
a
see
different
exactly
angle,
what you
right?
mean.
So you're self-made. So I put together a little list of what I believe is important to be successful as a self-made person and kind of turn around the outcome if you feel like you aren't successful. So the first one is owning it. You have to own the result. You have to. You have to own the result. If you can't own where you're at and it's everybody else's fault, then this is going to be a waste of your time. You should probably tune into something else right now, because you control your destiny. You control how hard you work, what time you get up, what you eat, how much you work out, what you think, who you surround yourself with, what TV you watch, what book you read. It's all you. You control that. And so you can lean towards things that make you successful or lean away from those things. But either way, it's your choice. You make those choices every day. Most of us aren't victims. We control that.
Yeah.
The second one is, and this one's a hard one for a lot of people, is you have to love yourself. Like, I think a lot of people at the end of the day don't really love themselves. And I see this a lot when people fail. So people that have fear of failure and will fail once and then never try anything again, the reason why is because they don't love themselves. Because if you think about it, like if your best friend made a mistake and you would forgive them, but you won't forgive yourself, then you don't love yourself as much as you love other people.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, why wouldn't you forgive yourself for a mistake? Why don't you look at it as a game? Why don't you accept that you're not perfect? Why don't you accept that you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do your best and you're going to acknowledge when you could have done better, and you're going to acknowledge when you got lucky or things went right. But neither one, bad or good, are an indictment unless you don't love yourself. If you don't love yourself, then you get all tangled up and you don't forgive yourself and you react negatively. And also, most of the time you overreact to accomplishments. Like, oh, I'm the best, and you get this ego that's fake. Honestly, it's fake. It's insecure, and it's fake to over celebrate something also. Right. Like, there's nothing worse than a bad winner.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Like sorry.
That's a sign of somebody not really having a balance and trying to over celebrate something that really maybe they got lucky in the end. So really do an inventory about, will I forgive myself? Do I treat myself like somebody I care about? Am I eating and acting and sleeping, doing the things that I would do to somebody that I loved? Or am I treating myself like somebody that isn't my friend that I wouldn't really like? And you know the answer to that question, but the thing that I've found about that is once you think about it that way, it's really easy to start to understand how you can love yourself. It's really easy to start to understand how you can treat yourself a little bit different. And then right after that is self-talk. Like if you love yourself, then how do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself in the way that you are highlighting and giving energy to your talents, or are you giving energy to your faults? Are I said this to somebody the other day, Mario, and I don't know if you were there, but this guy running a dealer group was complaining about his service manager. And he was kind of asking us to do some kind of kooky stuff, complaining about the service manager. And I said, listen, the thing is that in the end, what this conversation feels like to me is you have Tom Brady and you want Michael Vick, but you handed us Tom Brady. Now, if I have Tom Brady as my quarterback, I'm going to let him throw the ball. I'm not going to ask him to run, right?
100%.
I'm not going to call two run plays out of 4 plays. I'm just not. He's going to drop back and he's going to pass or he's going to hand it off because that's Tom Brady. Now, if I have Michael Vick, I'm going to spread it out. I can do all kinds of different things with Russell Wilson, a quarterback like that. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand what your gifts and your strengths are. And then once you understand that, you need to build your self-talk to that. You need to be really excited about the things that you're good at. You need to enjoy them. You need to put your energy and time into those things that you're good at, that you enjoy, and not spend time and energy on the things that you're not. Don't beat yourself up over those things. It drives me crazy when I hear people say, Russo did this the other day. He goes, I'm not good at math. It's like, you're not good at math. What does that mean? Like, how can you not be good at math? It's math.
Got a calculator.
Like, you don't have to do it long. Like, don't say those kind of things to yourself. Like, talk to yourself like you're good at anything you want to be good at. You just haven't decided to be good at it.
Yeah.
You haven't decided that that's a priority and you're going to spend the rest of your life learning math. So let it go. It isn't a big deal, but you're not good or not bad. It's just not a priority. It's not something you enjoy, but it's not necessarily a weakness. And how you look at those things and how you self-talk about those things end up, affecting where you go and what you achieve. So self-talk is a big deal. The next one is your friends. The people you hang out with, the people you attract. Like the further up the ladder that you go of success, and there is a ladder, and there is a class system, whether you like it or not, it exists. So, accept it. The people that are rich are different, they talk different, they act different, they think different about people than billionaires do, and then, you just keep going up. But there's classes as you go up. Are the friends that you're surrounding yourself with making you better or making you worse? Because if it's drama, I don't know anybody who didn't have to get rid of their friends going up the ladder, because your friends in the end that you showed up with, once you start to make more money than them and once you're more successful than them, it's odd, but they're not happy for you. Right. They're jealous. And so you have to understand that you can't be around that energy. You have to find new friends. And it's okay. It doesn't make them bad. But when they're talking to you like that, they're looking in the mirror. They're not talking to you. Does that make sense? A lot of times when people are talking to you, they're looking in the mirror.
Right.
They're not talking to you. They're talking through their insecurities, through their feelings, through their fears, through their self-loathing, not loving themselves. And so they're saying things, but they don't really mean them. You don't have time for that. You need to get around people that aren't talking like that. People that talk about what can happen. People that have done great things, that are achieving things, that see the world as an opportunity, not as a curse. That are having fun, that are taking advantage of the opportunities. And also people that have gone or are going through hard times that make it through. Because you're going to face hard times. It's not easy. Nothing is ever easy. This isn't the thing like about reading The Secret or some of those books. It's like, it's nice to think positive. That's good. But the truth of the matter is they're not addressing all the bad things that are going to happen to you. They're not addressing that you're going to go out and start something and it's going to go terribly wrong. Like, you know, you can't feel entitled to things. And that's the next one is you can't feel entitled. You're not entitled to anything. If you can't get excited about the economy we're in this country and all the opportunity that we have, you're watching too much TV. You need to get away from the negative news and understand that the economy is going, money's moving around, opportunity is everywhere, right? And so you really need to think about that the opportunity is everywhere. And then the last one that I have on here is commitment. If you want to be self-made, you have to commit to something in a way that even you can't be convinced you won't do it. Like you have to commit with every ounce of your being to making something happen. Because I don't know how many people I see that have a lot of these things. And then when it comes to the actual commitment, that's where they give up really quick. So they have the recipe for everything else, but as soon as it gets hard, they give up. And they talk like that too. They're like, well, I did my best.
Right.
Well, nobody was really asking you to do your best. They were asking you to win. They were asking you to accomplish something. Right. So when you say you did your best, I'm pretty sure that that's a lie. I've never heard somebody say, I did my best, and there wasn't one more thing they could have done. They could have got up a little earlier, done a little more research, asked one more person for help or their idea, gone and watched somebody else who's doing it at a high level. Like, you could have done something. Right? And so you didn't really do your best. You just didn't get it done. And that's the thing about commitment is, and it, you know, I don't know, we see it all the time. Guys are like, oh, I did my best. You're like, what?
They would have been better off stop watching the news and watch a bunch of Nike commercials. And they're like, one more, and it changes your mindset, right? I think you've heard me say before, Chris, is the way we think is the way we feel, and the way we feel is the way we act or react. So be cautious of what you're allowing in your brain, whether it's fake news, negative news, and all that, because that's what we start thinking now. And then we feel that way, and then guess what? We're in this world acting or reacting that way. And so when you start thinking positive, when you start thinking anything's possible, now you're feeling invincible. And guess what you're doing now? You're acting in such a way, right? And so I always tell people in training sessions, who controls what you think? And they all say, well, I do. Well, when you're in a bad mood, change the way you're thinking and all goes away, right? So the mind is very powerful, but it's like you said, if we're so busy not accepting it and not owning it, then we're going to be in that, under the veil, right?
Yeah. What do you think the hardest one is on this list?
Let's run it by. What's the list again? Run it again.
So you got own it, love yourself, self-talk, friends, commitment.
I think the first and the last ones are huge to me.
The own it?
The own it and the commitment. Right?
I think love yourself.
Love yourself is? You have to love yourself? Well, I think in owning it, you realize that you do love yourself. So that's why I'm going with owning it, right? You have to own it to realize what's real. If I own everything, now I take all the pointing fingers away and I look at what's real here. And then I think ultimately would go into, well, now that I own it and I know this, I love myself enough to start making some kind of commitment or some changes. So I would stick with owning it would be my first and most important.
Yeah, that's the first step. But I find the love yourself is the one that really gets them, but it's good. So wherever you're at in life, you're self-made. You made it. your decisions, your actions, your attitude, your enthusiasm, your commitment to success got you to where you are today. And if you want to change that, then you just have to change your actions, your thoughts, and it'll all change. The view changes when you change.
Yeah.
You'll start to see the positive in things. You'll start to see opportunity when you change the way you think. So think about that. It's a powerful message, and I hope it inspires you and gets you to perform to your full potential and not just, showing up average every day, because you're better than that. You have a full potential that you haven't even tapped. You haven't even begun to realize what you're capable of until you own it and kind of go through these steps. So have a great week, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks, Dr. Mario. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.